Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative Podcast. It's the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions from the worlds of TV, film, pop culture, social media, sports, lifestyle, everything really, depending on the guest. We talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. My guest is an actor. He's also a writer, director, does a bunch of really cool things. We are with Ali Kazmi. Ali, welcome to Popternative, man.
PD Beats. What's up, man?
Thank you for doing this, man. It took a while for us to get this done, but you know what? We got it done, man. I'm happy.
I'm really happy to be here, man. This has been a long time coming.
Absolutely. So, I mean, part of your answer is going to have to do with, you know, your parents are no strangers to the entertainment industry. You know what I mean?
I mean, they've done things.
But, like, when did you kind of decide that, like, storytelling and performing was something that you kind of wanted to do and, like, follow your parents' footsteps a little bit? Like, when did that happen for you?
You know, Pete, I've been actually doing this for a long, long time. I started when I was 2. Because I had no choice back then. Because my parents, I mean, whenever they were looking for a kid or a baby, so that I would be in. But besides that, I think back then they realized that I was really comfortable on set. I'm a people person. I used to be really relaxed. I never cried, and I was never like upset with too many people around. I was just chill.
Yeah.
And then by the time I was 7, I remember there's this huge play called Dhoop Kinare. It's this really big Pakistani TV series. Which kind of got a lot of international acclaim as well, and it was before Grey's Anatomy was cool.
Yeah,
and it was in like the 80s, in the late 80s, and I played my father's flashback in it. Like he's an orphan and stuff, and he's in this thing. So I had this really serious scene to do, and I was about 7, and I remember that feeling because by the time you're 7, you kind of retain stuff, you remember things. I remember that feeling, being on set and the people and you know, making people laugh and then doing a really serious scene. And I told my mom, who directed that, my father was the star of that. And it was like, you know, daunting. My mom was a very serious director. And she's like, listen, Ali, we rehearsed, everything's fine, you okay? And the person who was playing my dad's father and my father in the thing was a family friend of ours. He was a lovely guy. And he would chat me up, make me feel comfortable. And I told my mom, which you should never tell any director ever, which thank God I know now. But she was my mom. So I was like, Mom, just go upstairs to the booth. It'll be a one take.
And was she like, excuse me?
She's like, what did you say? I was like, it'll be fine. And then she went up. And thank God, it is a one-take scene. And also, I realized never to talk to a director that way because my mom really gave it to me when I got home. She's like, don't you ever talk to a director like that again. So a lot of lessons there. But I think that, to be honest with you, when I was 7, 8 years old, when other kids wanted to be astronauts or wanted to be cowboys or wanted to be, you know, doctors or whatever it was, I think then had decided that I wanted to be a performer.
No, for sure.
I love being on set, and I never looked back, man. So I think by 13, I was doing it professionally. I stopped taking money from my parents when I was 17, and never looked back, man. So by 25, I was a pretty well-known, established actor in Pakistan, and then I decided to do other stuff, which we'll go into.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we're gonna get into that because I'm really interested to learn more your kind of thoughts on, you know, Pakistani cinema and to see kind of how it's growing a little bit, especially with like the global distribution of a lot of like global international shows, you know, on streaming platforms. The access is incredible. Before that, though, we got to mention 5-year anniversary of Beeba Boys. 5 years. And
5 years, man.
Shout out to Erica Deutschman and shout out to Rhea Black, who are in that movie as well. And it was just on CBC. I mean, last week. I mean, that's a cool film, man. Like that must have been cool to shoot, and that was a great cast. And it must have been fun to be a part of that.
Well, like that's to be like it started off as a real big deal and a big dream for me, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because Deepa Mehta, the lady that directed that film, she's a powerhouse of a human being, and she has been a. If you've lived in the subcontinent, or otherwise, and if you've been a brown actor that's wanted to break out internationally, or whether you've never even left Pakistan or India, Deepa Mehta is goals. I mean, that is like you want to work with this lady, and after having struggled here and then going through the gauntlet and the audition and things, and then doing series after series and all that kind of stuff, finally to land this film and working with Deepa and all these amazing people. So there were actors from India. There was an amazing cast from Canada.
Yeah, it was a great cast, man.
It was a really cool cast, man. It was really cool because they're really cool, Bollywood superstars, old and new. I like Randeep, who's the big star, who was in Extraction as well recently with Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, did you see that? That movie was amazing.
Yeah, so Randeep himself is a huge star. Then there was Gulshan Grover and Kulbhushan Kharbanda, who were these old world Bollywood stars. Then there's Deepa at the helm, the captain of the ship. There's like these amazing Ali Momin, Gabe Gray, Steve Dillon, Jack Ball, all the boys. There's Erica, there's Ray, there's Roop, Megan, who's this like international singing star, and there was Boris Aluvalia, who comes in Wes Anderson films, and he's like a turbaned.
If you think about it, like a really good dynamic cast.
It was a trip, man, and there was crew from India, there was crew from Canada, and there was crew from East Coast and West Coast. So I mean, it was kind of nice. It was a real Deepa brings that's her jam.
Yeah.
What she does is she's like, I don't care about what you look like, where it all depends on how you fit together in this piece, and she really puts the puzzle together. And Beeba Boys was sort of a leap for her as well, by the way. Like it was something. Not usually in her genre, like gangster films is not her jam at all. Like she's, more into like drama and coming of age stories and sort of intense topics.
Yeah.
But because this was based on a true story, these real life gangster problems that they had in the early 2000s in Vancouver, which luckily don't exist anymore. But yeah, so it was kind of based on that.
What, did you guys have to do a lot of research for that?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Because I had no idea. I mean, first of all, I haven't grown up here, so it was news for me. I mean, Canada's been so lovely to me, and I've lived in Toronto since I've come here. It's been 12 years. Back then, 5 years ago, it had been a few years, and I had no idea. Canadians are so sweet, man. so lovely people.
You mentioned, there were some people from, Beeba Boys that had a lot of fame in Bollywood. And the one thing I wanted to, before we get into the other things, man, there's so many questions I have, you know what I mean? Well, no, because I remember, do you find... So here's my question. So when you think of Bollywood, a lot of people think of, the singing and dancing kind of component of it, right? There's a lot of films that have a lot of that in it. And I remember watching a movie in film class called, I think it was called Joom Bar Bar Joom.
Joom Bar Bar Joom, oh my God.
Yeah, and there was a song in it. Ticket to Hollywood. Do you remember that one?
Oh God. It is just to preface this, it is got great music and some great actors, but it was a bad movie, man. I don't know why they showed you that movie, but that's a bad movie. Bad Bollywood example.
Did you watch the whole movie?
Yeah, of course. Dude, I'm a huge...
The whole time we're watching this movie, because it's like two perspectives, right?
Oh
the whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm like, both these people are complete liars. like no one's telling the truth.
Aye. That is, and I'm a huge the guy that's kind of plays like the wizard in it. The big hat. Like he's the guy that we grew up. I mean, he's Al Pacino. Like he's the guy. He was the guy we all grew up watching.
You're because I was doing some research. Like your father had a lot of success in that genre as well, right?
Absolutely. I mean, our films had a little less of the singing and dancing, like Bollywood films initially.
So that was my question. Is it do you what do you think about that association? Because there's a lot of films that don't have that singing and dancing. There's a lot of drama films and action films. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think the thing is, I think that's what, um, yeah, I guess it's a very convoluted answer to this question, but I'm going to try to give you as you know, as
You're
basic as
distracted
possible.
about June Bar Bar June. I understand.
Right? How could you? Why did you watch this movie, Pete?
It was in class.
There's
You
so
have to
many
watch it.
to recommend to your teacher. Okay, so anyway, so just like how you watch Jhoom Barabar Jhoom, that's not Bollywood cinema. I mean, Bollywood cinema, yes, it's got great musicals, and even Pakistani cinema has got great music. And we look, it's part of our culture. Just like how there was a whole musical era that went through Hollywood as well. It is a big part of the subcontinent as well, music and arts and sort of that dancing, and it is a big part of our culture.
Yeah.
It's part of Sufi mysticism as well, so it kind of ties into some religious beliefs as well, and especially for the even for the Hindus as well, a lot of part of their festivals is there. So, but I will say that I think what the West has just sort of taken from it is just that musical vibe, which is unfair because I think that there's a lot more that Bollywood and Lollywood, as in Pakistani cinema, has to offer, man. Like there's so much, like the art cinema and the like slowly and steadily that's coming up now. I think even Bollywood, because their commercial cinema had taken over the world so much, like there was so much of it,
And I
and
had that
everybody had.
song. I had that song stuck in my head from June Bar Bar June. It was like take. Yeah, but
Or, no, that one.
wasn't there also a song, or maybe it was another film? We watched a couple of Bollywood films, but like there was
No, no,
one
Ticket to
song,
Hollywood.
"Ticket to Hollywood."
Yeah, I know, but bad movie, bad people. No, so no. To bookend the question, it's just that at the end of the day, I think because Bollywood had become that big, and they kind of went with it. They kind of ran with the fact that okay, if the West and the world is going to embrace this colorful musical side of us, let's get out there. And so I respect that. That at least they wanted to put the word out there and get the things out there, so that people would watch it in film schools and would get more associated with it. And then now they have their whole RD side to offer.
Yeah.
Whereas, unfortunately, Pakistan, we uh, always had, we were always a little more real with our stuff. I think that's the difference. I think it was even our dramas, like our TV series, and is a lot more grounded. It's more natural. It's more real.
So if you
And
go
our
to
stuff gets-
if you go to
yeah,
Pakistan right now, right?
yeah,
Because like you've
yeah.
done a lot of TV shows and a lot of films, like would it be difficult for you to kind of maneuver? Like would it like I'm just curious, right?
It is at times. Yeah.
It's difficult.
Because I mean, it's like it's in the subcontinent. If you're an actor,
Yeah.
it's a big
Can't even
deal.
imagine what it's like for your parents.
I mean, yeah, it was insane, man. Like for them growing up, it was But they're cool. They're such lovely people, man. They're so cool. Like
Well,
they
that's
never let
the
us
thing.
feel it.
That's the thing too. I'm interviewing people from like on my show from some of like the biggest shows on Netflix right now. You know what I mean? And like, no, it's just like I don't know why there's this like. It feels like there's a stigma attached to like famous people, right? Famous
You know
people.
what happens? You know what happens, Pete? Like it's just that there's so many people in the arts now, like, and even from the subcontinent. Because a while ago, let me tell you that it wasn't as respected as it is now. Like when I started out as a kid, as a child artist, it was like, oh, so what else do you do? Is this all you do? You know what I'm saying? How do you make it? And I'm like, no, I do pretty all right. And then slowly and steadily, you prove yourself, and then people are like, oh, please, can you make my son do it? Can you? How do you get in?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of naysayers you're going to meet along the way. But what happens is, I think overall, because there's so many people in the arts, a lot of people are actually really nice and approachable, and it's just the idea of a lot of people there's a few people that are become arrogant, or their managers make it so that they have to seem exclusive because that they won't be big superstars otherwise if they're not exclusive and they talk to everybody. So it's this persona that's created a lot by the PR agencies too sometimes. And it's like a few people that have been rude to people, and then those stories just get out, right? If a few famous people, imagine 5 famous people, you imagine if you met 20 famous people in your life, let's say, and out of them 5 really rude to you. So you're gonna block those 5 people and be like, you know what, man, Madonna was like, or like whatever. But that's not the case at all. So I'm glad you bring that up. I don't think that's the case.
No, for sure. So, okay. So my question too, most specifically Pakistani cinema is, we're seeing right now a big uprising of like, especially with like Parasite winning Best Picture, all this content from all over the world right now is being watched, and it's not even being watched with the dub. It's being watched with the subtitles, and it's amazing the access we have right now. Do you see it benefiting Pakistani cinema and Pakistani TV? In terms of there's more access to it, and talk a little bit about that. Have you noticed kind of that there's been a little bit of a spike where people kind of outside of that are kind of watching it?
Yeah, man. First of all, I think the good thing was our TV series were already had become kind of global, because I mean the diaspora has spread all over the world now, and our TV series are actually taught in. So India has been doing film much longer than we have.
Yeah.
But our TV series are taught in their film schools, because their TV is not as advanced or as natural.
We should have watched those in class. We should
I was showing you some of that stuff and stuff. but yeah, so I think that's the thing. And our TV series have become big. And then what the channels started to do was, because they started to get so much recognition, they started to put it on YouTube. They started getting a lot of requests. So a lot of the formal, like the channels that were making the shows would put it on YouTube as like a proper like HD version of the show.
Yeah.
And that started getting a lot of like millions and millions of views. And that being said, then some of the shows have made it onto Netflix. And then our films were dead for the longest time, because there was a dictator, Ziaul Haq, in the late 80s, and he kind of shut down arts, and the TV kind of still squeezed by, and theater kind of squeezed by, but they were like, no films are global. No, there's not. We're Islamic Republic of Pakistan. It's not going to happen. And then finally, when his reign ended, people started to come back, but it was slow and steady, to get films back on and going again, So now, I would say in the last 6-7 years, our films have kind of making it in the forefront. So I think it's good timing in that regard, that our dramas were already big online, and now, yes, I'm really excited that I think more and more people will get to see Pakistani cinema on Netflix and on other streaming platforms, even on YouTube, in fact. So
because in our world right now, there's a lot of like really like crazy, terrible things happening in our world right now, and it's just like really hard to kind of escape that unfortunate reality. But I feel like there's like the one like small good thing right now that I see in the last kind of 5 years is, compared to like 5 years prior, man, like the amount, the quality and the amount of content that we're able to consume right now, it's crazy, man. It's unbelievable.
That is really true, man. That is so true. And I think I think all of us can say this now, that during this pandemic, I mean, God bless streaming. You know what I'm saying? Like that's, and I'm so glad that people decided to go, because if you remember, you're a film guy, you know this stuff. Like a while ago, there was this whole argument of, whether all these big filmmakers and all these amazing creators and actors would even go and would start to refuse like streaming stuff. Like, they only want their stuff on the big screen, or maintain it for the big channel.
Even before that, man, TV had kind of a stigma attached to it, right? Where it's like, the people that do TV can't go in movies.
Exactly. And you know what? It even in Pakistan, it's so funny. We only had TV for the longest time. and then the actors from TV that started to do film, people like, hey, how come this TV started? Like, come on, man. There was no film.
Of what's happening.
There's going to be, a white TV director doing film. I'm like, it's the obvious job. But yeah, even in Canada, man, even in Canada, and I know, like, there's such a huge stigma attached to, just a little short while ago when I moved here, like 12 years ago. I remember, like, film and TV, there was still that divide
Yeah.
in Hollywood and in Canada, that it was like, oh, TV stars, oh, they're just going to be TV stars. Like the
No, absolutely.
film stars are like, larger than life. These guys, and then the streaming thing just kicked in, and I think everybody was like, oh, damn. And you see all these big stars doing stuff for Netflix, and, HBO's got a streaming thing, and there's Amazon Prime. And
Yeah, everyone has a streaming thing. NBC is launching Peacock soon. Like, it's crazy.
in fact, and CBC's got Jam and all this kind of shebang. And you know what? In fact, now is so different that you are not, I feel that you are not actually hitting it big if you're not on streaming, if you don't have a show on a streaming platform.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
It's crazy.
That's the difference. Like all the big stars, you're not relevant, or you're not sort of, being watched in a bigger scale if you're not on a streaming platform. It becomes so different. I know.
Crazy. It is wild. It was wild. Well, Ali, thank you so much for coming on Popternative, man.
Dude, this was great. You know what? I think we need to have like more chats, man. This is like, there's so much to talk about.
Dude, it's amazing, man. So, I mean, plug away a little bit right now. Like, where can people kind of follow you on social media, and any like specific projects that they can kind of watch right now? Anywhere? Like, plug away, man. The floor is yours.
Thanks, man. Well, there is a couple of shows, a couple of TV series that Pakistani TV series that you can watch that are re-showing. This called Sahara Mein Safar, which means walk through the desert. It's like it's a very deep series play. they're showing that on it's on YouTube and things like that. And then there's two projects which I'm really proud of and are very unique, which are coming out very soon, which show two very different sides of me, which I'm very excited to show the world. There's one called Ishrat. There's one called Ishrat Made in China, which is this action comedy, Kung Fu Hustle-esque. Have you ever watched Stephen Chow's films?
Of course.
Dude, so it's kind of like a action comedy along those lines. It's very unique. It's never been done in Pakistan before. This brand new humor, this kind of action stuff. And then my second film with Beeba Boy director Deepa Mehta, it's called Funny Boy, which we shot in Sri Lanka end of last year. And that was supposed to be coming out this year, but both these films will now be delayed to 2021.
And where can people follow you on social media?
Oh yeah, at the Ali Kazmi. It's not that egotistical, I swear. It's just that there's too many Ali Kazmis. So at the THE Ali Kazmi.
You know what? Sometimes it's like some people also put like official Ali Kazmi.
I never liked that. A lot of people do that, by the way. A lot of people do that. There's a lot of accounts, and I didn't realize it until, I swear, Pete, until you actually have a lot of like intense fans out there that actually make these such realistic looking like accounts, man, where there's your picture and your name and stuff. So that's why you gotta sometimes. I hate putting the official things out. Like I'd rather go with something a little more creative, maybe like V or like whatever. But
absolutely, yeah. No. Well, seriously, thank you so much for coming on the chat, man.
Maybe someday there'll be like Pete Beats official or like
Yeah.
they're like trying to take your identity, man.
Yeah, it could happen. You never know. But seriously, thank you so much, man. It was great to chat with you about all this stuff.
Thank you so much. Have a good one, man. Be safe.
You too. Well, this has been Popternative. YouTube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. And until next time, this is Ali Kazmi and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.